I know that I'm crisscross applesauce, but I don't want to seem very stereotypical, at least not for this video, because I want to talk about some important things, and I think more of it is just paying attention to what I'm saying rather than just going for being distracted about the. Like, you'll see me like this in India most of the time, at least, because there are things to keep in mind. We don't always have chairs. Most of the time when we have a bonfire, it's kind of like in this sort of area where there's gravel, and it is not paved. This is America, but we just have like dirt and gravel, or like slightly bigger rocks that are just small rocks that are everywhere, and they create a fire friendly place for us. And we find bigger rocks about ye big just to sit down and soak up the fire, because yes, you do soak up fire. It literally gives you energy. I can't explain it in a very profound way that would make sense, but in my experience so far, I could be tired at 10:30 at night and I don't feel like doing anything. But the moment one of my friends says that, oh, let's go for a bonfire, or what's the agenda for today, and I say bonfire, I have enough energy to go out, explore, have an adventure, and gather wood. And as soon as the fire is lit, usually it starts to do something inwardly. Like, if you remember, I spoke about inscapes in the last few videos, or think it was either the duality of God part 4, or could have been duality of God part 4, the inscape, how you feel in here. And this is just something to keep in mind. Like, fire draws you inwards. Like, when there's artificial light, you're focused on things that don't really matter, things that can be postponed, that don't require top priority. You think they do. It's like, oh, I have to do this for my job, or this college project, or this high school project. But when you're in front of a fire, it makes you social. And this is what I want to talk about today. I'm working on a ranch, a guest ranch in Montana, and currently everybody's gone. I think beside just a very few people, there's almost nobody here. I'm like probably 1 out of 10 people here. Most of them is just kitchen staff, and everybody's gone to cattle branding, and it is what it is. In the main essence of what I'm trying to say is, like the fire, it makes you social because it's over a prolonged period of time, it's taught people to gather together. And I'm not going to talk about it from an archaeological point of view or like human history or anything, but off of what I know based off of my experience. So, like for me, in the mountains in India, in Garhwal, in Uttarakhand, and even in Himachal, there are places where people will just gather around because of a fire. Like, that's the only reason they need. And in some cases, it's also the biggest excuse that they need. They don't really care about much else. It's just like, we spend the whole day doing whatever labor or work or whatever. And this is just a nice way to calm down, wind down, talk to people, socialize. But the reason I'm not there at the cattle branding is, A, I have a lot of work to do. I was uploading the weaponization of religion in the Bible to get posted this coming week on Monday. I think it's the 5th or 6th, yeah. So it's definitely the 5th of May. And today is the Saturday before that. So I had to do that work. I had to upload it on Rumble and YouTube. I had to get my shorts put on my phone, prepare them to get posted on social media for the rest of the week. There's like different things, if it makes sense to you. Then the second thing is, like last night, even everybody went to the bar. And then I think they went to the bowling alley. And for them, that's entertaining. But out of all the time that I've spent with people, this is one of the things that kind of annoys me. And I don't want to say it in a very bad way. Some people drink out of a courtesy or, respectfully. But there are other people who drink and that's their personality. Like, if you want to be social, but you can't be social without alcohol, you're not a social person. Trust me on that. And this is what I want to talk about, especially in my generation. What I've seen is isolation. So, one of the rules of this ranch is that there's only one room in the whole place, all the property combined, where we can actually use Wi Fi and not get torn down for it or scolded for it or whatever. And their primary objective for that is just to make sure that people talk to each other. They want people to talk to each other. And especially because it's all college kids. I have no experience of being in college. I don't know what it's like to be in college personally. But on a more important note, that's not where I want to stay. What I've seen is what usually tries to keep people in college is the whole experience of getting drunk and having fun. That has never personally appealed to me, like the college parties and everything. Even high school is a little bit like that now. But it was never meant to be like that. And the reason I say that is because if that is your excuse to talk to people and mingle with people and you can't do it without alcohol or any of that type of stuff, then there is a big problem with you. Because if alcohol is your shield from the world to figure out who you really are, and you can use it as an excuse to get as drunk as possible and say whatever you want, then you probably shouldn't be drinking. And that is my honest opinion. That is my personal honest opinion. That is as truthful and raw as I will get. The reason is because even I used to drink, and I know there's a bunch of pastors that probably listen to this video too, but it doesn't bother me. I used to drink, and one of the things I realized is that it's not worth it in the long run. And the only reason I say that primarily is just because you can't use it as a way to block yourself from the world while also trying to socialize with the world, if you understand what I'm saying. You're hiding behind a veil of alcohol, no matter what you're drinking, and it becomes a perfect excuse for whatever you say or any of your behavior, any of your thoughts, even. Like a lot of the people here I don't really talk to, even though they're my age, and I stay to my own because I have this work to do. This is also work for me. So, besides everything that I had to do and learn a little bit about business in the real world, this was also something else I had to do, was shoot content and make sure that I'm creating content as well, focus on getting my speaking better. And it's my priority to do this because this is the harder thing to do. And there is no fear of missing out for me. Not last night, not today either. I'm not missing out on much. Today in the morning, I was the first one there before breakfast was even served, and I don't eat breakfast, I just have coffee. And the chef, he was outside smoking a cigarette. He said good morning. He said, "Are you going to the cattle branding?" I said, "Probably not. I have other stuff to do." And he said, "You're not missing out on much anyway." Go figure. He's from here. He comes back here every year. He's been here for 10 years. But something that I do really want to say is that, you know, he's right. I'm not missing out on much. This is more important. For me, this is building my future in one way or another. I made this decision and it'll impact me in the future down the line. I could have been sitting there not drinking because I don't drink anymore and doing cattle branding with them and get all smelly for no reason. Smell like burnt hair for no reason. Just because everybody is there. And it's like as soon as people said it was optional, I didn't want to be there. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just didn't want to be there. Because something that I heard someone say once on the internet, and I'm not going to name names because then a lot of you will just sign off. In time, you will realize who it is. But I remember the person saying, if everybody can do it and if everybody wants to go, it's not fun and you shouldn't go. And the reason is because exclusivity is the primary motivator for everybody on earth. Whether it be the old muscle car that you want to restore, that's an exclusive thing that you want to do. If it's the college that you want to get into and it's prestigious, that's an exclusive thing. If you want to go to Costa Rica, not everybody in America or anywhere else in the world gets the opportunity to go to Costa Rica, or Spain or Netherlands or whatever. Wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do, the deep, very personal aspiration and motives that you have for yourself are usually exclusive. Not everybody wants to do them and not everybody can do them. Do you understand that now? So that exclusivity is what creates this m- much more monumental appeal to you personally and to the other people that want to do it as well. And that is how you find like minded people. I hope I'm being clear on that. I really do. Because I don't mean to demean anybody per se, but some of this stuff just isn't worth it. Like going to the bar, wasting money, buying a round of drinks, getting even more drunk just to buy extra drinks is not the way to go. Simply. Like if you, I think one of the bartenders that works here, she was talking to me in the morning and she was telling me how a glass of or a beer or something in the bar was $5, and if she bought someone else rounds and she had enough beers and she spent $50, well, you could have used that $50 in the real world. To be honest with you, Andrew Tate's University, the real world, and he doesn't even teach a lot of the lessons there. A lot of other millionaires do, hand-picked, selected millionaires where they teach you about social media and client acquisition, copywriting, marketing, business, video editing, AI automation, AI, what do they call it? Stable diffusion, which not a lot of people seem to be doing quite a bit. Either they go full AI or they go full old school. So this is the thing that you have to keep in mind of, that sometimes things that everybody can do just aren't for you. And the reason I say this is because if you feel pressured into doing something, like I didn't take baptism because everybody was taking baptism. I'm not everybody else. I'm This is compliance basically. And I spoke about this. I'm not trying to make this religious, but I will take a religious analogy from my life to draw my point. I was in church one day and there was a pastor talking about the story of Gideon. And just a few weeks or 2 weeks before that, my grandfather had preached a sermon on a Sunday morning somewhere in America. I think it may have been Virginia, about Gideon as well. And he used reference to 1 John 2:14, which I think it says, "Young men, I write to you because the word of God lives in you and you have overcome the evil one." And he's using the story of Gideon for hope and positivity, optimism. But this pastor, he was using it to drill something in inherently negative. He was saying, "When I am weak, I am strong." But it's the wrong declaration. And he had the pastor, had the congregation keep declaring that throughout the sermon after he came up with that statement. He had the congregation keep saying, "When I am weak, I am strong." And that is not true. Because what it's doing on a subconscious level to you is it's creating a negative perspective of the world. So you're going to enable weakness in people because you want to see their strength, but that's not true. Weakness creates the stage for strength to show up. And if you want to be weak, you're going to become the platforms for strength, and it's not going to be you in those cases. Case in point, if someone's doing some manual labor project, correct? And let's say for some reason they're weak and they can't do anything, they can't use a shovel or they can't carry something heavy, it creates the stage, it creates the environment for the person who does have the strength. So while I understand what he was saying, he was making the wrong declaration. He's enabling weakness in people, in making them think that it's strength, which is not true. If he wanted to make a declaration, which I spoke to multiple pastors about this, the correct declaration would have been, "When I am weak, Christ is my strength," because that is far more biblically accurate, and that is accurate in general either. True, because it says, "When I am weak, God is my strength." When I can't do it, when I'm burnt out, when I'm finite, God fuels me up and I'm infinite again, because he's infinite. He's an infinite source, kind of like fire, right? If you keep the fire burning, is just an infinite source of energy, because fire is energy, it's producing energy. That's what light is, and that's what heat is as well. But I'm not trying to be all physics and sciencey. My main motive to talk about this as well is social leprosy, and it's because I've observed quite a bit. This is the first time I'm actually hanging out with a lot of people that are my age, and what I see is that a lot of them have social leprosy. A lot of them have a negative view about themselves. And I was the first one that stood out of the crowd, because I've displayed my competency, whether it be through writing, editing, and publishing books, doing this stuff to become more confident and competent in speaking. And when I started speaking, a lot of people wanted to listen. I've started to experiment more with body language too, and that's helped quite a lot, because what that what that showed me when it was my first few days here and we had bonfires, so everybody naturally wanted to listen. And that's something that I've been practicing for a long time. And when it comes to bonfires, with my experience compared to the other kids, I excel because I've been doing that for years and years, almost a decade. But it enabled me to do a whole lot more. Now, see, social leprosy occurs when you are just weak and sick socially. You don't know how to talk, you're very negative, you have a negative self image, and nobody wants to interact with somebody else if they're negative. That's the simple reality. And I'll tell you from personal experience, I've been that way and it never worked out for me. Focusing on negative things makes you a burden socially. People want to interact with people that boost their mood. I don't care what type of life it is. Like even if you're talking to somebody in the hospital, but people in the hospital see a lot of bad every day. Be the light, even if you're there as a patient, be the light for the nurse, be joy for the nurse. Like crack jokes, make fun, like just spread positivity in their life too. You can't be socially draining. It's like, why would, if you understand what I'm saying, leprosy is something that you can't really interact with. You had to stay far away from it because it's contagious, you could get it, whatever. And then, I mean, the old laws or whatever said that you'd be unclean if you touched a leopard, a leper. But my point being is that that was so negative physically for them that they were discarded from society. And the Indian caste system is kind of like that with the untouchables. I'm not getting into that political debate. But social leprosy is something when someone is so negative and you can just see it. You can see it in their face, they're excluded in the group, and the only time they open their mouth up is to say some weird crap, which is very negative. And it detracts people from you because it's not a positive thing, it's not a fun thing for other people to hear. And the reason I say that with complete honesty, complete and utter honesty, is simply for this reason. Why would I want to take the time of my day with everything that I deal with just to hear someone's negativity and they don't even want me to help or be positive with them? Would you do that? Would you just take negativity and have it compound into you? No. You'd want to be able to do something about it. You'd want to be able to fix it in some way. You'd want to be able to be a catalyst for positivity in their life in some way or another. Even if you smile at them, even if you said good morning, even if you open the door for them, smaller things, and then you can compound those into bigger things if you have a conversation. Motivate them, inspire them, make them aspire towards something. Use your own life as an example. But you see what I'm talking about, right? You're generating positive momentum in their life. And this is where introvertedness becomes an excuse. It becomes a scapegoat. It becomes a cop out, a cope, whatever you want to say. It just becomes a coping mechanism for people to say, oh, yeah, I'm an introvert. That's why I don't like groups. That is a cop out. You are desperate for social interactions, but you are so negative about them. You are negative about yourself to the degree that the moment you see people, you're like, no, I can't do this. I know, not personally, and personally, I know a lot of introverted people that are great at socializing. And it's because they have understood one thing that a lot of people that are introverts have not. And that is simply one thing. They are very positive. They know how to carry a conversation, they know how to navigate conversations, and they can talk for hours with people, and the people love talking to them just because they're positive. That's the secret to successful interaction is always positivity. You can sell someone anything if you make them feel good. That's one of the secret ingredients of selling that I've noticed. We've been doing a few prank calls here. One of my cabin mates, we've been doing prank calls with people, and I've been successful in selling them nothing. Basically, I've just been selling them an idea of something, and it's just because I'm a very positive person. That positivity creates this open environment where I can just make them feel good about themselves first, and then about what their future could be if they had this certain thing. So you have them feeling good, and you want them to feel even better, or you want them to feel hopeful about the future. That's something that, like, I don't see a lot of people do. It's it's very just negative, 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 and especially in a negative world, in a negative political angle, in a negative religious angle, spiritual angle, whatever you want to say, societal, cultural. Being positive is the best way to go. And I'm not trying to talk like other YouTubers out there. I'm trying to give you genuine advice because I want to see you excel. And the only way you excel is by being irrationally positive. So I have a few things that I believe in irrationally. I believe in irrational positivity, being irrationally hopeful, being irrationally loyal, being irrationally brave, being irrationally faithful, being irrationally hopeful, and that includes irrational optimism as well. Being irrationally happy with other people, unless I just don't want anything to do with that person and I've never met them, then it's just there's a list of things that I believe in simply by just being irrational. And you know where it leaves you? I wrote about this in my Christian devotional, and right, I'm not being religious, but this is advice that I would give you for life in general. My cabin mate has a car here, I don't. And I noticed that there was a bunch of trash in the car, and I didn't know if he was going to clean it up. I know that one of the dump trucks on the property is very old. Right, so I was saying, my friend has a truck, and I'm sorry, there was a hiker that came with his puppy, so I had to stop and pet the dog. I love dogs. But like I was saying, my cabin mate has a car. I didn't know when he was going to clean out the trash, and there we have a dump truck on the property, which is primarily used for hauling gravel and stuff of that sort. It's it's a Ford F700 or something like that. F700. I don't know which year it is. It's a diesel. I love diesels. But my point with that is that truck is infested with rats. They just live in it, and it stinks all the time. And I said, because of the marmots here, because of the rats here, I'll just clean up the truck for him. And he's been good to me so far, but I couldn't see his, especially if he's allowing me to. He said I can use the truck if I want to. He he's helping me drive up and down the road because the main highway and the general store are like 30-40 minutes away by car. So it's like he's allowing me to use that. So I might as well make it better for him to keep it clean. And that's one of the things that I wrote in my devotional, is leaving things better than the way you found them. And we've heard that in school, we've heard that through our parents or whoever taught us that, is just leave places better than where you found them, leave people better than which condition you found them, leave everything better than the way you found it. Like, that betterment policy is the best way to go, because you never know how far it takes you with someone else. Even if it's cleaning out the trash in someone's car, helping them, motivating them, inspiring them. But being a leech socially, or a mosquito, and just draining energy from people, sucking their blood out, is not going to help anybody. So you can't use anything as an excuse for you and use it as a veil, just to say, oh yeah, this bad thing happened to me. I know one of the guys here is very negative. He says, oh yeah, this is what my life was like, this is how I grew up. And I know people with a worse story than him on the same property, on the same team, and they are half as negative. They're not even negative at all, they're quite positive, completely positive. And they're easier to talk to because you can actually find common ground and build off a conversation with them. I have a very bad past, and I haven't spoken about it much on YouTube. I haven't spoken about it to anybody else so far. A few people back home in India and California know that, but not a lot of people here know how I grew up. They don't know what happened to me. A lot of you people don't know what happened to me either. And I keep those things very close to my chest, quite literally. And I don't use any of that to be negative. I could use that as the best excuse to be negative all the time, and I don't. A lot of stuff happened with people's families here too. he's using it as a way to just be negative and use it as a okay social okay excuse to just be negative, and that's not how it works. I'm sorry, but that's not how it works. If that is your upbringing, make it an unfair advantage. I haven't been able to speak about this for a long time, but I wanted to. Unfair advantages is basically when life becomes unfair. You use that as an advantage. You use that as your step up in life. You use it to beat the person that has it perfect. If your parents split up and they were divorced and you were grown in a single family home and your parent wasn't the best, whichever one raised you, use that as a step up, use that as a motivating force to say, I'm going to be better than the person that was raised with two parents. If a person with two parents can do this much, I'm going to do double that, because that is what makes me more powerful, that's what makes me more stronger, and that is what generates more positivity in you. Because if you can do that, then you can imply that mentality into other people. You can implement it into other people's mind. You can just sow a seed in their mind and say, you know, I grew up in this condition. Why do people love listening to David Goggins or Andrew Tate? Whoever does listen to him, even I do, but other motivational inspiring people, is just because they were in a negative situation and they genuinely did something to fix it and they got the result that they wanted. And now, because they just keeps building and building, because they've set up that momentum, it becomes far easier for them to spread that seed into other people's mind. Half the reason that a lot of people like my shorts, my YouTube videos and whatnot, is simply just because I talk about things that I've already accomplished. And a lot of you may not even sense it immediately, mentally with your logic, but you can feel that I've overcome a lot of the stuff that I speak about. And because I've reached that stage, I can actually talk about it because I've surpassed that stage. So it's like when you're on a journey, right? And someone's starting their journey, you're here and someone's here. Because you've already been here and because you've learned the lesson here, hopefully, and it's helped you get till here, you can easily teach and make someone here exponentially greater by the time they reach where you're at. Because you've excelled at so far, you probably adapted that lesson so many times, you perfected that lesson, and hopefully that is a good practice that you guys keep, that you perfect lessons that you learn. It's not one and done. Some lessons you need to perfect over time so that when it comes time for you to teach, which it always will, you can do a better job at teaching someone that's a little bit behind you without damaging their image, without shaming them, because shame sometimes does work, but that's not the way you want to go all the time. And that's just the way you become a better person in life completely and utterly. I believe it because I know I've done it. A lot of people say that, like, when one of the first nights when I was here, someone asked me why I don't drink alcohol, and I told them the whole story of why exactly I don't drink alcohol. And it started off sad. They felt quiet. Everyone felt quiet, but everybody was listening. And by the end of it, I gave them very optimistic, because I learned storytelling from the real world. So I learned how to gradually pace the story, how to build up the story. And by the end of the story, everybody was so happy to hear about why I don't drink alcohol. It wasn't a sad story, it was a very motivating and inspiring story. And the whole group in the bonfire, they said, why do you not do this? Why do you not just speak motivationally and inspire people? And I said, you don't know, I already do. That's just the type of person I am. Because I was able to implement that in my life, where I leave things better than the way I found them, it was easier for me to actually start telling people about it, talking to people about it, helping them do it as well, and implementing it on a daily basis. If I see something in my room or my friend's room that's out of place or dirty, I just leave it better than where I found it. He has a guitar. I said, I'll buy strings next time I go into town, or if you go into town, I'll pay for them and I'll replace them for you. Just leave things better the way than where you found them. I'm using the guitar too. And even if I didn't, I still would, as a social courtesy, just because he's learning guitar. I'd rather have him learn on a new set of strings so that he knows what it sounds like. And those are smaller examples for you to learn how I do these things. Because there is no point in you going through life for the sake of going through life and not doing anything for the world. a useless existence, because that is very possible. And when I posted videos this week, I was sitting close up to a motorcycle. You know something that happened? I wrote a comment and I said something about selfishness. You know, I in my advice for your 20s video, I said that you need to be able to just live life for you as well, because if other people are narrating and dictating what you are supposed to think, say, and do and behave, and all those things, then you are not living your life. You're living other people's lives or other people's version of you, not your version of you. So you can't even be the best version of that, because you don't know what the best version of that looks like. And a lot of deprogramming is required, and a lot of reconstruction as well. So deconstruct and then reconstruct your mind. I love construction, so that's how I'm going to speak. Tear everything down to the foundation, fix up the foundation, and start building up based off of what you want, not what other people put up in your structure, but what you actually wanted. Like, what is your dream home? Imagine if you were your dream home. Would you want it filled with other people's things that they like, that you don't like? Some ugly vase that some some uncle or aunt of yours likes, but you don't like. Would you prefer that? Be honest. Or would you want some cool piece of art on the wall? So this is how you need to think. Do you want a room in specific sizes and stuff? So this, I'm talking about your brain, your heart, your emotions, your, so it's like your spiritual, social, mental, emotional, physical, financial life. It has to be based on what you want. See, I'll tell you why, because it goes back to a biblical thing, but it goes back to a universal law, right? Karma, do good unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Love one another as you would, love your enemies as you would love yourself. It's all based off of this one thing, that if you can't do it for yourself, you're not going to do it for someone else. So, selfishness in a healthy way helps you to realize that if you can prioritize yourself this much, and then you can extrapolate it onto someone else and their life, then that says so much about you, that that person loved me like they were, like I was their own. Like, I felt so loved by them, it felt like they were just loving themselves. Like, that is such an intense love. And they brush that onto you so bad that that's exactly what you start to do with other people as well. So learn that. Learn, and I'm not talking about self love, I'm talking about prioritizing what you need and what you want for the perfect environment, for the perfect mentality that can both come together, add and feed into each other, fuel each other to compound positivity and love into the world. Because without that, there is no point in any of us being on earth, technically. Why do you think God is love? I'll leave that thought with you. Have a great week.